Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, and this panel discussion is going to be about strengthening the talent pipeline with partnerships between manufacturers and other organizations and programs. My name is Ashley Smart. I'm part of the reporting team here at BizTimes, and I cover manufacturing, technology, and startups, so I'm familiar with some of these companies. And today I have with me Kohl, who is the CEO of MPE Inc. MPE is a manufacturer of electromechanical medical systems and mobility solutions. And then we have Andrew Zimdars, Director of Partner Services at GPS Education Partners. They're a nonprofit organization that offers work-based learning programs to provide students in the Midwest with real-life work experiences in high-demand technical careers within manufacturing and construction. Next, we have Stephanie Cooper, who is Operations Manager at AQ-Matic Valve and Controls, and they make commercial water valves for a variety of different industries. And last but not least, we have Michaelene Healy, Quality Manager and ISO Rep at Superior Crane Corporation. They are a local family-owned crane manufacturer. So we will have time for questions at the end. I'll make sure I leave time. If there's anything really pressing, maybe raise a hand and I can call out to you. But let's dive into it. And I'd like to ask each of you to start off by sharing a little bit more about each of your organizations and a little bit more about each program or collaboration that you will be speaking about today. Hank, if you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can start. Thank you, everyone. My name is Hank Kohl. I'm the CEO of a company called MPE based here in Milwaukee. We're a designer and manufacturer of complex medical device systems like surgical robots, navigation systems, tumor ablation technologies, etc. And I came from Germany originally. When I started the business here in Milwaukee, I was a bit shocked at the disconnect that existed between industry and education and the poor quality of product coming out of education, especially as it is associated with technology and manufacturing. So I started to look at standing up within my own organization an education program on an apprenticeship platform that I was used to from Germany. And through that exercise, I was introduced to and met the GPS team. The GPS Ed organization had been working in the same venture for a number of years. Partnered with them, actually installed one of their ed centers into our campus and our facility, working with juniors and seniors in high school who are going through a work-based learning curriculum program within our four walls of our business, working within our business on other hours, learning work-based learning curriculum, learning how to work with people, etc.
So I'm Andrew Zimdars. Hank just shared a little bit about what we do. More broadly, we're a nonprofit that works in the work-based learning space. Nationally, we now help organizations, communities, schools, businesses operate within the work-based learning ecosystem and figure out how they can best have work-based learning work in their city, their business, their organization. Here in Wisconsin, we have our Cornerstone program, which is our education center model, where we take students that, for whatever reason, traditional school just isn't the right fit for them. They're not engaged with it. But they have an interest in getting into technical careers, and they want something different for how their high school career finishes. And so we do a part-day school program with them, where we actually have them go to school with us embedded within a manufacturing facility. And then the other half of the day, we place them with a local business as a youth apprentice. So I'll be sharing a little bit more about that perspective through this.
All right, I'm Stephanie Cooper. I'm at AQ-Matic Valve and Controls. Like she said, I am the operations manager. This worked out well and tied together well because I am the start to finish, basically, of the entire process with those students from the business side of things. So we are a business partner with them for 7, 8 years, I think now. We have a couple students that we've actually hired on that have continued to develop within our company, and we've watched many students grow over the years. So I will be talking more about that, what that looks like from the early interview and that whole procedure through to graduation.
Hello, my name is Michaelene, and often people recognize me. My nickname is Mickey, so it's way easier. Just call me Mickey. Healy. I work for Superior Crane Corporation. It is a family business, and we manufacture overhead material handling equipment. We have a whole bunch of industrial trades in-house. We have machining, engineering, processing, painting, electrical, servicing, welding and fabrication, and I think I got everything, and material control. So our company is a small family business, about 90 employees. And we took the initiative because we saw what the future was holding for us with a lot of our veterans starting to retire. And we decided to take hold of that and to do something about it ourselves. We were tired of waiting for the right candidate, so we decided to create a program. It's an outreach trades training program, and it's directed towards young adults and high school students. We've had as many as 6 students that participated in our summer program, and as little as 2 students. And these students get to learn all about the industrial trades that we have there in-house, as well as financial curriculum and life skills that we found very valuable. So with that, they go through the summer program, and then they also, with the collaboration of a lot of the high schools, we get to take part in the youth apprenticeship programs, and they get to earn credits as well as earning money, because they also get paid.
Perfect, thanks so much. So I want to start off by asking each of you, how are you fighting against some of the outdated perceptions that come with manufacturing? I'm personally lucky enough that I get to tour some of the most high-tech facilities. I was just at Rockwell Automation earlier this week, watching their fancy high-tech robots tool around the building. But a lot of people think of manufacturing as like dark and dangerous, so how are you fighting that kind of misperception and getting young people interested? Anyone can start off.
I can start it. I think that there's still a bit misconception that there is a misunderstanding of manufacturing. I don't think there's an understanding of manufacturing at all in the early stages of students' growth. I think that we have cycled through the curriculum and through the education process this concept that kids have to go to a 4-year degree college and they aren't exposed to what happens in manufacturing today, what happens in product development design, the demand of industry, how technology is applied and where it can be used, and really what their career set could look like. I know many of the kids that come into the TPSF program don't know what manufacturing is at all at that point. They're just looking for a different path into their future.
For me in particular, I'm trying to as well debunk those myths that the only way you're successful is going to a 4-year college. And don't get me wrong, we still need those people going through that 4-year college. So I'm definitely not saying that, but you can still be successful without going that route. And I try to talk out those scenarios with those students, because let's be real. That younger generation, they're looking towards like, how can I make money really fast, right? I mean, we all were like that at that age, you know? And we talk about that. I try to play out that scenario. You graduate from high school, you start a career right away. You don't have school loans like I did, you know? You don't have to pay those back. You're starting to save for a house, maybe a new car, you know, things like that. Maybe you're looking into investing for your financial freedom later on, right? When you want to retire, you then get to decide when you want to retire, not when your business tells you, not when the government tells you. And right there, when I start telling them that, and I start telling them, oh, when they do start investing early, and they can become millionaires, let me tell you, their eyes get really big.
Yeah, just really quick add that we're obviously all doing our part, but it really starts with everybody in this room talking about it differently. How our parents are talking to the students that we encounter, how our school personnel are talking to students about it. That really is going to change. Still encounter the process where take a student on board and that makes me sad that if you're a kid, like pursuing your passion and interest, you actually have to So I would say we have a responsibility to look at it with it all.
So Andrew, around specifically in topics are finding the right fit in terms of students with like non-teachers are good fit and then
Yeah, so we partner with area school districts, and our whole idea of partnering is there are certain students in school that maybe love their tech ed classes, but the rest of their school day and stuff, 8-hour classroom experience is like their personal hell. We all know who those kids are, right? And their multiple intelligence, their intelligence is not shining through until they get into that in which they are engaged. And so, reason their disengagement might be attendance, it might be credits, it might be causing trouble in school, whatever the case may be. But somebody at some point has seen something in them that they have potential, and they've potentially done really well in their tech ed classes. And so we don't have any qualifiers as to what gets you into the program. You just have to be, I always say you have to be running towards our opportunity versus away from a problem, and you have to be eager to work. And if you meet those two criteria, we want to work with you. And so we go through an interview process, and we get to know the students, and then they come on board, and we go through a road to employability where they have to demonstrate that they have certain employability skills before we're going to place them into a job, and we coach them up on what those are and get them ready for that. And then from there, we place them with a local business based on the fit that we feel that they have and the skill set they have to start their youth apprenticeship.
Perfect. And then Mickey, down at the end, I was hoping you could also maybe touch on that since you have your own program in-house, how you guys are finding the right fit for the company.
That's something that, as far as our bringing those students in.
Yeah, just the right kind of student for your business environment.
Cause some disruption. First of all, I was just talking to a wonderful gentleman earlier, and when I go out to the high schools for career fairs, job fairs, and all that, the biggest thing I try to send out the message to students is, if you are motivated, there's no stopping you. You can learn anything. And there's many businesses out there that are willing to train you, to teach you, and keep on moving you up that ladder. You just need to be motivated. And that's the one thing I do with a lot of the students that come in and apply for the SECU job. First of all, we interview all applicants. We interview them all, and we're looking for those kids that probably are not your typical traditional learning student. It's more of that like 2.0, 2.5 student that doesn't do well in the traditional school setting. They are tactile learners, those hands-on learners. And they do well with that. And that's what I'm actually looking for. I'm looking for what ticks in their mind, but I'm also looking for motivators, or kids that are motivated to do this and learn more. Because you also got to consider, I also have a full staff of training and employees that, if you are there with a student and they are not showing interest, they have a hard time, trying to train them as well. So I try to include that in the interviews with those students. That you need to give them respect as well, because that's my team. And you got to be remembering that as well. So I typically look for those students that are those hands-on learners, and again, those that are not as successful in that typical traditional school setting.
Anyone else on that? Okay. Got it.
I guess in full confession, I'm that kid that those guys described. If I didn't have the pathway of the work-based learning curriculum I had as a young individual I probably wouldn't be here today talking to you about what we're doing.
Yeah, I'll just really quick add that I call them the kids that I have to hire to come fix stuff at my house because I am the world's least handy person, and so my brain doesn't think like that. But some of our kids, you put them and tell them to write like a 10-page essay paper, it's like they'll just. But if you have them take apart a motor and put it back together, they're wildly intelligent. But for a long time in education, we've been telling those kids that they're not very good. And so they've pursued other pathways on their own, but now we're trying to catch them while they're still in high school to make them successful earlier on and fill all the jobs that we were talking about that need to be filled.
So let's say we have a business owner here today and they're intrigued by what everybody's saying. They might want to have some students out on the shop floor. Anybody can take this one. What are some common challenges that come with having a young person on the shop floor, and what could a business owner maybe expect there?
Okay, I can start on this one. So, like we said, it's a whole process from start to finish, but what I have learned and watched in this process is, some of the challenges can be, whether it's behavioral, we've talked about that. A lot of these students are coming from high school. I've watched students that are looking at their phones going to their classrooms, almost getting kicked out of their junior year of high school, that are not walking across because they graduated maybe more than probably half of their graduating class. So it's a very gratifying process, but there are those obstacles, right? Sometimes it's headphones or earbuds, or whether it's the attendance issues and things like that. But in reality, when you look at the broad scope of things, you deal with that stuff with a lot of other people too. It's not just a 17-year-old student. So when you look at the baseline of building somebody up and being part of that confidence boost and self-esteem boost, and you are truly mentoring somebody for a better future and your company.
I would say safety, especially in the manufacturing industry. We have to be, that's number one, is to make sure that we have been very transparent with all of our employees about that and our concerns. And of course, you have to follow all the guidelines accordingly. And we've gone as far as like the students wearing certain gear so we can visibly see them throughout the production floor. And we make sure that every one of the students that are involved, they are introduced to all the employees, because we have monthly meetings with all the employees, so we make sure that that as well is communicated, and we have it posted, everything that you can imagine. So I would say that for us was one of the things that we put that as a top priority, and working with the equipment that we do and the things that we build, you have to be, and we take that seriously with the students. And they know it. So
I can add to that. One of the things that I found very interesting that GP has done is they have done the research of what can these kids do, what training do they need. The safety element of it is a big part of that as being a business owner and CEO. How can we do this correctly? How can we do it safely? And they figured that pathway out. They were able to educate my organization, teach us what to do and how to do that. We were able to implement it rather seamlessly.
So what I'll add is this shouldn't be the reason you don't do it, because I think it actually ends up being a good thing. But having a youth on your production floor in your company will be a mirror to your culture. So you'll be able to see how well your training program is, how well your employees are treating each other, whether you have safety as a priority. You will quickly start to see those things based on what experiences you're having with your youth apprentice. That's the path that you go. So it'll quickly show you what your culture is in your organization. And if it's good, you will thrive in this space. And if it's not, you'll have some things you'll have to fix. But it's worth doing because ultimately it will make your company better overall.
So there are a lot of different skills that a single person can learn in a single manufacturing business. How do you help students identify their interests on the shop floor and make sure they get to cycle around and see everything you have to offer?
I can start. So in our business, we have a cyclical program where the students actually rotate within our organization in different areas of the department, so they get exposed to multiple areas of the business. Another part of it that we found was very important to make this successful was aligning them with mentors out on the shop floor that'll take these kids under their wing, show them the way, hold them accountable, teach them that they have to be there in the morning or they're going to let their team down. And what resonated with me when we started this program was the realization that those folks working in our factories essentially chose that as their career. And now they have the ability to share their career path and their successes with new kids that are interested in this business.
Yeah, so we're very similar to that as well. We have a 6-department rotation with very specific mentors in each department that take it very seriously. To just piggyback on what you were saying before too about choosing to do this and kind of letting it expose some of your processes internally isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It builds your team up, it builds your business up, it builds your students up. So in turn, there's a gift basically to everyone. But that rotation is kind of key. What we typically do is kind of have a set for, whether it's 2 weeks in a department or 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is. And then towards about halfway through the school year, we can kind of customize. So if they found interest, I tell them, give me your top 2. We do that rotation. And we can take them back to that department to dive in deeper or learn more. Or if they have an interest suddenly in, inventory management or things like that, more on, the ops side and not so much production. If you have an interest in it, come and sit in my office for a little bit. We'll go through some of these details. So we do veer off every once in a while if they have questions, but that's an advantage we have as well too within our company, that we can kind of, customize for the interest of the students as well.
Similar to them, we piggyback and we do the rotation of all the areas that we have. And just like Stephanie had mentioned, how it even makes them a better employee, because now they know why the processes are what they are, why they are taking that form, why do we have to wait on this form before we start this, and why. They get to see it. And the biggest thing that we even is, like, for example, engineers. The best engineers are the ones that are down on that production floor and they build some of those items themselves. So I usually use that as an example to the students that even are like, but I don't even want to do this. I'm like, it gives you an idea of what it is like, okay, and how their processes are. And after that rotation, we do the same thing of like trying to focus on asking them what areas they would like to focus on. We also include our internal management team in each department where they come into our classroom and they talk about the department. They talk about how they got their start. They talk about what the wages look like. They talk about the pros and cons of each department. And I always tell them, I'm like, you gotta sell your department to that student to try to get them into your department. So that's what they do, is they're selling their department.
Lots of sales skills being developed. Amazing. So next I want to touch on just the culture in each company up here. If you hadn't had students kind of on your shop floor before and all of a sudden you're introducing them, how do you get your other employees to buy into that idea and make sure it's a welcoming environment for them and a place that everyone wants to be? Anyone can start off.
I can start with touch on it briefly. I think creating that culture of accountability, training, and pride within the whole organization to be able to show these kids the pathway. At least in our organization, we're growing rather significantly. So staffing has always been a challenge for our organization, and not having enough employees out on the shop floor is a big burden for the folks that are working every day. And if they can see this as a pathway to help solve that problem, they can be part of the solution. It definitely helps empower the culture. And there's some pride in that. As these folks get to share what they do every day with young people, there's a lot to be said as how it's improved our culture as an organization, for sure.
Same thing, like Hank had mentioned, we found some of our veterans. We had an ex-NFL football player that was a machinist, and he was this big, tough guy, and he was looking into retiring soon. He was like the only one that knew how to run our lathe on the machining department. And we had a young kid coming in that was really interested in using that machine. And this gentleman man, you couldn't imagine the eyes. Like, he was so excited to show his knowledge and teach this kid. Even after he retired, he came in during this kid's hours to teach him how to use that machine. I mean, it was incredible. And he's like this big, tough guy, but I was like, deep down inside, you're soft. And he was like, no, you know, so it's amazing of seeing your veterans grow like that, and they are so excited to share that information. The other thing is we've been transparent with our employees, and we told them what the issues were, like right away. We're like, listen, we're having a bunch of people looking to retire, and if we don't like try to resolve this ourselves, like this place might be closing down. And honestly, our first class was all word of mouth from our coworkers suggesting the students to come. If it wasn't for our workers, our employees that suggested it, we wouldn't have had a class. And actually, we gained momentum then since then with the schools and with word of mouth from our employees. And just those ex-SCCU students that are still part of it, they're like sharing it and trying to get their friends or trying to share that information. So that has been the biggest thing for us.
Really quick, I have a couple more questions. I want to ask if there's any audience questions if we're approaching the end of this session. Anybody? Over here.
We have some pretty good connections with a lot of the high schools. I see one of my connections right here, and has been very supportive. And yeah, I'll get some counselors, teachers, like, hey, I got this student, and I think they would be like a great welder fabricator for that. And we go through all the tests and everything, and we go through everything that we can, but we do a lot of communication with those high school counselors, the coordinators, the career coordinators. I'm kind of like hanging out with them a lot. You know, I'm sure Molly over there is probably sick of me, but I try to partake in like organizations that also help the high schools as well, like volunteering at events that, you know, just get our name out so the high school students like know what our company is about. Like I said, we are a small family business, so we're not as recognizable as maybe your Generac, right? You know, or some other big businesses. So, but I'm going to still be there and represent us, and I'll take you if you don't want to go to Generac. Did you check my bag who's funded? I used to be an MPS teacher. So before I went into the manufacturing industry, I was a teacher, special needs teacher for middle school students for about 5 years in that. During my time, I worked with MRP settings and other classroom settings, and I found those students excel very well in tactile learning. I kept on pushing those particular students that I thought, I was like, you should really check out Tech Ed. And at the time, you had Milwaukee Tech High School that had all those Tech Ed programs. I know it's no longer has those programs, and it's unfortunate. And I know a lot of high schools kind of have to keep on going through that dilemma every time of like, can we bring back Tech Ed? Is it worth it with all the costs that are involved? But you have a huge population of students out there that are not going to that four-year college route, okay? There's way more of a bigger population that's not going to be doing that. And we gotta find some kind of routes or some kind of way or pathways for them so that they can still be successful too, because they can. And the trades or other careers that don't require that, those are just evidence of proof that it works. So I don't know why, but I know there's like a lot of other things going on, that I had no control over that. I wish there was like, when I left MPS and I had my exit interview, they were like, oh, what are some things that we can do to improve? And I was like, oh, gosh, I could say more money, more people, but, reality is, we can't all get that, right? Every industry wants that. It's not just teaching. So I think Tech Ed is great. I love the dual enrollment programs that the tech schools are providing. I try to encourage that for students, that if you don't have a Tech Ed program at your high school, check it out. MATC, Gateway, WCTC, all great programs. And I'm constantly encouraging them to take part in those as well. So if you can't find a route right in that high school, try to find a different route, right? So I hope that answered it.
Yes, in the back. Amazing. Yes, we love to make connections. Anybody else from the audience? Don't be shy if you have one. No? Okay. I think I have time for one more question. Okay. Hank, you touched on this a little bit during our planning call for this panel, and it was about how you think about this work in terms of if you bring a young person onto the shop floor, there isn't necessarily like a direct immediate ROI to that work. There's not like a immediate sales increase. So when you're thinking about this work, what do you look for? Is it purely like out of the goodness of your heart? Are you looking for any sort of return on investment? Is it a combination of the two? What are your thoughts there? And then anybody else can add also.
On my side, I look at this from two different perspectives. One is I believe it's something that we owe back to our community. And if these kids don't man out or work out or we hire them in our business, maybe they're going to go work for one of our suppliers. Maybe they're going to work for somebody else in our community, and we're going to be all better for that. That being said, on the business side, the cost and investment that I have in here, I challenge any other manufacturer in this room or any other business owner in this room that you're not already spending that money or more every single day. And your turnover in your first year of hires, your HR staffing, your training, your quality, your inefficiencies of productivity are all existing in your organization, and your inability to bring on able-bodied talent that's ready to hit the ground running day one. Those costs are there. So putting some structure around it and getting some real ROI, while it might be a little bit difficult to put pen to paper and see a real number, it exists.
Yeah, I mean, our point of being up here is not just to highlight what we're doing, but to ask you guys to get involved. I mean, Erin and I are on LinkedIn together. I see her posts like begging companies to take kids. And like, we're in the same spot. We need more businesses to place kids in. And when kids come to us and want that experience, and now we can't get businesses to open up their doors to take kids in, it's tough, right? Erin's feeling the same pain we are. So there may be some short-term pain to have to evolve into what's going to make this work, but long-term, it's going to pay off dividends. And if nothing else, it's going to make your training process better. It's going to make your culture better. And you're just going to have a better organization to get everybody from the top down to be invested in something, to grow something together. And everybody knows they've got a whole swath of their employees that are about to retire at some point in the next 5 years. So if you want to refill those pipelines, this is the way to do it.
So I can speak to both sides of that as well. Like the kindness of your own heart, absolutely. Our GM at my company is a wonderful person. And that speaks volumes to how the company is run as well. So yes, there is a part of it where it's like, yeah, I want to do good. You know, you feel that, like, just that part of you as a company. But also, the flip side of that is we do the interviews with these students. And we'll sometimes interview, I think one year we interviewed about 10 of them. And we sit down, like, an actual interview process. We actually put them through, sometimes 6 of us, it's 2, 2, and 2, which is a pretty lengthy process, right? I'm pretty sure none of us can probably apply to maybe 6 to 8 people, that's a lot. But we still sit down and we talk about those qualities, we talk about their answers, and we give GPS feedback. We email back and say this is our top, 1, 2, 3 people. We think that they'd be a good fit, this is why, and we give, feedback as well, positive and negative, right? Because that's how they're going to develop from that side too. So long term for the company, if you have somebody that's invested, or interested in the CNC side, consider an investment, right? We're investing, yes, we're investing in the process and the students, but the outcome of that, to everybody's point, is people.
As far as us too, as well, we would like every student to stick with the company and retire with us. We definitely would do. But we also realize that those students may not stick with us, and they might choose a different business later on or a different industry. But ultimately, we look at it even as looking at the community and the things that we also teach, and we're training to put values in with these students that no matter where they go, they're going to take those with them, and that will help them excel wherever they go. So we look at this as part of our contribution as well, and keeping our community strong.
Amazing. Well, I think we're just out of time. So I want to thank each of you for being on the panel with me this afternoon and for all the work that you do. And I'm sure if the audience has any other questions, you guys will be around after the next session, and we'll be around to chat. So thank you all so much.